press play on this. You guys got to see that Claire does indeed have an IQ of 141, which is considered very superior. It is in the 99th percentile, which means if there's 100 people in a room, she's smarter than 99 of them. The thing is that she's having communication issues, same as I am, due to trauma. And due to being blown off and victimized and taken advantage of here in Tillamook County, resulting in some pretty heinous crimes. There are things that you don't do, and you especially don't do to children. No matter what your position of power is, certain things are not okay. So let's play this for a minute. There's two videos that I'm going to show you that are important to show. So we'll play a minute of this, we'll play both of those videos, and then we'll continue and proceed. When I'm in an environment like that, you know, between the echolalia and the mimic, you know, situations that we endure, you know, you can tell by watching my videos what kind of an environment I'm in and, you know, what kind of interactions I'm having. If people are... For example, right now my voice is not as loud as it was earlier. You can also hear there's no rain right now and there's no wind right now. So obviously one of the issues is when there's loud noises around me, my voice raises to match. So if you're yelling at me and I'm saying something important, I may raise my voice to match. Just because I'm a male doesn't mean that I can't endure abuse. Of course, you guys have no sympathy whatsoever. You don't care about who harms me, just like Natalie didn't care. She knew what people were saying wasn't true. She knew what she said wasn't true. And the parts that were true were intentionally taken out of context. That's not okay, especially when it results in innocent people being harmed. People who are not heard because they're disabled and homeless. And, of course, men. I don't deserve this abuse. And I don't get to do the things that you guys take for granted. I keep trying to turn in the abuse. It doesn't matter because my abusers get to destroy everything that I own. Threatening to kill me, then yeah, I'm not going to have a positive reaction to that. Most of the time I'll just talk about it. But if it's become a physical issue or nearly a physical issue, like let's say somebody throws a rock at me and it misses me, but they threw a rock at me, you know, that's something where I'm going to show more emotion than when I'm having to try to turn in that, yeah, these people who have repeatedly assaulted me and called me a homosexual and then assaulted me again are still driving by and calling me a homosexual, and they're also... And we're going to stop right here. This video right here is an example, a very clear example of a situation where somebody decided that they're going to come be predatory towards me. This guy's name is Chris Stafford. There was a woman there named Bryn who was a witness to it. What happened is he threw a rock, it hit my car, and he was screaming. I didn't know who it was at that point. I just knew that somebody was screaming that I had paid somebody to beat them up. So, of course, I did what I was told to do. I'm supposed to get the license number and the ID and record it. But this is one of those situations where, well, you guys have gotten to hear plenty of times, the police saying stuff like, oh, well, since you didn't record the beginning, we don't know how it started, so we're not going to do anything. Well, it started with me in my car at the library, which they keep sending me to. They send me to places where I'm being victimized. The police, care, all these places, their idea for having a room that I could go do this in was to go to the library. And what did that do? It made it so that anybody could assault me at any point in time because they knew where I was at. It didn't really matter where I was at, though, because no matter where I went in town, they're likely to have one of them bullies along the route or cruising the route that I happen to park on. And then, of course, game on basically for them, throwing fireworks and all that stuff. And I've shown you guys the evidence of that and even more. So let's play this for you. First of all, we're going to address that they want to tell disabled people that we need to walk away or so on and so forth. Well, the instructions that we're given as disabled people is to stand our ground. If you're being harmed, make lots of noise. If people are threatening you, make lots of noise. So what I was talking about with Claire, you get to see an example of it. This guy started off throwing a rock and screaming out his window.
Apparently there's someone yelling at my car about hiring someone to beat them up. Oh, it's Chris Stafford trying to pretend I hired someone to beat him up. 909 PCT.
Now, it's raining at that point in time. Not badly, but it's raining. There's vehicles that are driving by. His vehicle's obviously on. You can hear the stuff that he's screaming at me. I've never been charged with any such thing. Never been charged with murder. Never been charged with being a child molester. Never been charged with any form of sexual offense. Never been charged with any form of child abuse. Meanwhile, many of the predators that I had to try to turn in that wanted to play victim have histories of child abuse against their own children. This guy, I had to try to turn him in for threatening my life and for telling other people that he was going to kill me. He also ran around telling everybody that I was crazy. He stole Amanda, God, I can't remember her last name at the moment. I wrote it down as Amanda Kayak, but I know her real name now. I just can't remember it at the moment. So she messaged me about what a creeper he was and about stealing those guns and so on and so forth. And it turns out that, yeah, I had to try to turn it in. Nobody'd listen to me, but later on, he got arrested for that. He got probation. They let him out pretty quick. So he got a slap on the wrist. It wasn't just illegal firearms. It's the things that he did to obtain them and the things that he did to people with them. What about that?
Fucking little girl stalking piece of shit, motherfucker. Yeah, report me. I told you. The cops are gonna fucking laugh at you, you're a piece of shit.
And multiple times the cops didn't actually laugh. They smiled real big, ear to ear, knowing full well that their body cameras were not going to record their faces. So when I called them out for smiling, they just said, "I'm not smiling." This is the same stuff that Andrew Wolnez was saying too, by the way. Chris Stafford is actually one of the people that said that he heard the cops claiming that I had killed some little girl in Colorado. But then again, if that were true, they'd already sent me to Colorado. I apologize that it's raining again. So my voice is elevated. That's an environmental issue. That's not a choice. So you're going to hear in this video, I don't start yelling at him until he is actually trying to, well, let's watch.
Yep, that literally just happened.
I'm going to pause it until it stops raining for a second. It might take a few. I am sorry. All right, the rain paused a little bit, as you can probably tell. So we can press play on this again. We'll back it up a couple of seconds because we missed part of it due to the rain.
Yep, that literally just happened. That's Chris Stafford. He assaulted me and threatened my life on multiple occasions. Yep, I told you.
Now, I ask you the question, did I approach him or is he approaching me? Was I yelling at him or was he yelling at me? Was I calling him a pedophile or a chimo, or was he calling me those things? This is not okay. See, he broke the law. He did immoral things. And then he wants to pretend that I must be a chomo and a little girl stalker, as if this somehow justifies the crimes that he committed and continues to commit.
Ain't nobody hired no. Stop! Stop! Get away from me!
Did he swing at me? Absolutely. You got to see it. Did I move out of the way? Absolutely. Do I believe he was actually trying to hit me as hard as he could or anything like that? No, I think he was trying to intimidate me. However, that's because he knew he was being recorded. In the other instances where he knew that he wasn't being recorded, it was a lot different scenario. Oh, there's the rain again. And you get to hear, I didn't start yelling for no reason.
Get away from me! Get away from me! Get away from me! No, you can't! Get away from me! 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 Get away from me!
Now what happens if I do that? I get told I'm acting like a child. I get told that I'm freaking out for no reason. I get told that I'm delusional and schizophrenic. Not by anybody qualified to make those decisions. Now, why is it that you don't walk away from your predators? Obviously, I'm not his predator. I'm not following him. We're going to show you. All right here. This video, let's pause it here. We're going to back it up to the very beginning. The most important part is about the first 30 to 40 seconds. I'm in my car. I hear this screaming. I look in my mirror. That's what I'm looking at. And I stay in my car and try to mind my business until he gets physical. And then I get out of my car and I start recording it. He's not getting physical from the point that I'm pointing the camera at him. He hits her when she's going away from him. We're going to pause it. That's Jamie. That's her assailant. She's facing him. And he slows down a bit while she's facing him. When she turns around and starts making space in between her and him, he runs up and punches her in the head hard enough to hit her. The name of the video is called Jamie Again. The channel is called Sean David at Dogged Roman, or just Sean David Jamie Again. As I typed here, Sean David Jamie Again is enough for you to watch the whole video, including this guy claiming that he killed a pedophile in prison and all sorts of other stuff. You also get to see me at work defusing the situation and not walking away. There's about 30 people there, by the way.
We can't have people hitting people. That ain't okay. All right. I'm Sean Schwartz. Sean Schwartz.
See, unlike my predators, I'm not hiding my name. I'm not hiding who I am. And unlike all of those cowards in the Dalles, Oregon watching this happen, I was not too much of a coward to speak up. And yeah, it would have been worth an ass whooping to get him away from her. She escaped because I'm an asshole.
That's my sister.
Oh, that makes it okay. Domestic violence. By the way, they're not brother and sister. It's a completely different scenario. So now that we're done with all of this crap, let's size this down and continue with this. That first video was here in Tillamook. That second video there was in the Dalles, Oregon. But it shows you why it is that you have to stand your ground. Meanwhile, you got to see Jamie. She was fucking trekking it. She can move way faster than I can.
Screaming the N-word at me still, and they're still using their buddies to come and harass me despite the protection order, and the police still won't follow the protection order because they're still trying to pretend that everything's a delusion, despite all of my evaluations stating that I'm not. Which I'm trying to get that stuff sent to you. I do have your email address in here somewhere, but the thing is, it's between my disabilities and having to travel with this heavy stuff and also having to have the money and having to run around to all this other stuff, like I'm just being run around in circles.
Yeah, just run around until you're broken and exhausted and don't do anything and shut up. That's what they want you to do.
Yes, ma'am. And people give horrible advice. Like what I'm supposed to do when I'm abused is go to a friend or family member immediately and have them turn it in to me. But what do my friends or family members do? They say, oh, well, you should just ignore it. Well, if I ignore it, let's say you're being raped every day when you go home after school.
A little bit worse, and you finally have had enough, and they're like, but why didn't you turn it in before? Yeah, I've run into that one.
Right, well, that's not what I was trying to say, actually, but yeah, that's another situation, too.
And that's her scenario. That's a scenario that I've spoken up about, too. Yes, it's a very real situation. Like I said, we talk over each other. She's got trauma, I've got trauma. I've accepted the fact that when it's her turn to talk, it's her turn to talk. And when it's my turn to talk, we end up talking like this. So I just end up talking like this the whole time now. It does allow us to both get bits and pieces in of our trauma and what's going on.
You know,
I can tell you that that's what happens.
Like when
try to let it go and move on, they keep doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They keep
Right.
pushing.
That's the thing, is that they get a big head. What happened with Waylon Lolatai? He got a big head. What happened with David Martinez? He got a big head. What happened with Polly Olson? She got a big head. What happened with Ray Rao? He got a big head. What happened to Rick Reigenborn? He got a big head. These are public officials and or police officers, police chiefs, sheriff's department heads that I turned in. Oh yeah, and then there's Sarah Nelson Torciello and Michelle Decini and what was that other lady's name? The sheriff of Garden County, Nebraska. Michelle. Hell, it doesn't matter. Let's get back to playing this. I turned in a lot of people nobody listened to, but they later got arrested for doing those things to others.
Trees until you break,
and then they say that you're mentally ill because you had a mental breakdown.
And then people are like, well, if it's been going on the whole time, what's changed? What's different? You're fine.
Well, now I'm showing a PTSD reaction to abuse.
It started a long time ago. Get over it. It's in the past. No, it's still happening.
Right. Exactly. So the scenario I was wanting to say, if you let me finish it, I wasn't trying to be rude. I noticed it set you off on a tangent, and you're right about everything that you said. That doesn't mean that it's not a tangent. It just means that you're absolutely right. And that's one of the autistic things, is that when we're prevented from speaking, we tend to info dump, which you and I both do horribly. We're bad at it. But let's say you're being raped every day when you go home, and you have to try to turn that in, and people are telling you to let it go, it's in the past, and you have to go home and endure that again. And if you don't record it, they say they can't do anything about it. If you record it when it starts happening, then they say, well, we don't know how it started. It's still abuse. Rape is still rape. Physical assault is still physical assault. Threatening to kill somebody is still threatening to kill somebody. So the thing is...
But if they assault me, or if they threaten to kill me, or if they threaten to kill my friends and family, no matter how alarming it is, They're not going to help me. They're going to pretend that these are all delusions, and I never get anywhere. I've gotten one protection order against one of my predators, and he hasn't stopped, and neither have his friends or family. So that's pretty important to note. It's still going on, just like Claire was saying. It's still going on. For her, she's got one specific predator and then a whole bunch of shitty predators here in Tillamook that she's still going to have to deal with. I mean, the slander that they tried putting on her paperwork, they're going to be going to prison for. They did exactly the same thing to her that they did to me. They pretended that autism was schizophrenia, and they victimized somebody who was forced into homelessness. I'm going to say that again, forced into homelessness.
You know, if that's happening every day and you're going to mandated reporters and they're saying, oh, well, let's work on housing, let's fill out some housing paperwork. Oh, you were assaulted again? Well, let's change the subject to housing. Oh, you were sexually assaulted? Well, let's change the subject to housing. Oh, the police sent you here and we're supposed to help you because you're disabled and you're being abused as a disabled person? Well, let's ignore that and let's focus on housing. So
Now you notice there, even though she interrupted me, when I did make a bit of a deal about it, because what I had to say was important, obviously at that point, I'm speaking as a derailed train, so to speak. Like I'm trying to put back together what it is, the important point that I was trying to make. And the longer she goes off, the more difficult it is for me to do. So she knows that that happens, and she is taking the time to listen.
the situation for you and all of your stuff and the situation for me and all of my stuff is that our disabilities are literally being used as an excuse to treat us like we're subhuman.
Yeah, so that's why I was getting that with dogs pooping on the sidewalk, but I can't. We get less than human rights, less than animal rights. There we go. Sorry.
Here's a question for you.
Or even animal rights.
When you show emotion, are you treated differently for showing emotions than other people are?
No, but I'm faking it. Like if I'm at the gas station or something running a register and people come up.
Yeah, you're faking it. That's the point. We all have to fake it. Masking, chameleon, it's also called, but chameleon has multiple definitions. Like there's the con artist type of chameleon versus the autistic chameleon. The autistic chameleon tries to fit in, tries to pretend that nothing's wrong. We use all the stuff that we've learned about social cues and we have to normalize, and it is exhausting, just like trying to normalize when you have Tourette's syndrome. So I have to hide my emotions, I have to hide my Tourette's syndrome, and I have to hide my autistic traits, and I have to pretend that everything is fine and dandy, or I will be punished for showing any sort of emotion. I'm not allowed to have an emotional response. Now, with Claire, there's two things in her favor. Number one, she's a woman, which did not help her out here. And number two, her predator has multiple victims. So, Ted Bollinger also has multiple victims. Same thing with Officer Waylon Lolatai. Same thing with Officer David Martinez.
And I know how to resell robot. It burns me out. It makes me very tired at the end of the day. But people, oh, okay. As soon as I start acting like myself, then people are like, oh, yeah. Well, like, if I start to get to know somebody and try to start talking about the things I've been through, especially, I get treated differently. Yeah.
Well, I noticed with a lot of autistic people that when they're being abused, oftentimes their autism is used against them in the form of family members who, after abusing the autistic person, will say, you are mentally ill. Or nobody's going to listen to you, you're mentally ill.
Oh, you're just exaggerating. Stop being dramatic.
You're told to go to your predator and tell them how it makes you feel, but they don't want to hear it. and they immediately start playing victim. Yep.
Now, this is what we're taught. Bullying 101. We got taught this in the 80s and early 90s in school. What you're supposed to do about bullies. You're supposed to try to tell your bully how what they're doing is making you feel, as if they didn't already know. But it's just in case they didn't understand that it was hurting your feelings. What that's more likely to do is get you made fun of not only by that kid, but by multiple kids. You're also told that you should go to the teacher about it. And when the teacher doesn't do anything about it, what do you do then? So then you're supposed to safety in numbers. This is all stuff that we were taught about bullies when we were kids. Safety in numbers. Walk with a friend. What if you don't have a friend to walk with? What if your friends who will walk with you are going to run away at the first sign of danger? Or if they're going to be too afraid to speak up if something happens?
And then they do it again, and they may not do it again to you. They might do it again to somebody else. But when somebody does something like that, especially in a position of power and a position of, dominion over you, when they're supposed to be your protectors, such as the police, sheriff's department, the people that care, specifically Shelley.
When you go into the doctor, they're like, "Do you feel safe at home?" And I'm like, "No, that's why I'm here." And they gloss over it. That's what they did to me at the 7-Day Adventist place.
You're a disabled person.
The Seventh-day Adventist place. Just so you know, there's multiple Seventh-day Adventist places. Some of the people work back and forth between both. I've seen some of the nurses and the chaplains from the hospital at the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I tried to turn stuff into them while I was at the, what do you call it? At the hospital on a civil hold. Instead of taking it seriously, the first lady had Pam show up, and then Pam basically talked over me and lied to the Lord and all that crap. So, the Seventh-day Adventist Church and the Seventh-day Adventist Hospital, I go to the church to get food. I've been assaulted at the church multiple times, and of course, I was assaulted at the hospital by a doctor. Dr. Stephanides. That was on, I believe, January 28th of 2023.
A vulnerable adult, and that disability is your vulnerability. People just automatically assume, and that assumption prevents you from getting heard, which is why you have to go to a mandatory reporter and have a friend or family member help you to turn abuse in, because otherwise you're going to get blown off. Just the slightest mannerisms that are different for us are enough for people to just assume the worst, like the lack of eye contact. We have to work on keeping eye contact with people. If I'm looking you in the eye, I'm not able to think. I'm too busy focusing on looking you in the eye. If I'm not looking you in the eye, I'm listening.
The right way. I hope this isn't creepy.
Yeah.
This is not
right.
natural for me.
This does not feel natural.
Plus, I grew up in the
most
system.
comfortable I ever felt was...
Like, I grew up in the system. Making eye contact might get you beaten up. I was primarily in places with minorities, so you don't want to piss off the majority. Basic rules.
I don't even look at people's faces. There's whole people that I could tell you their voice and what their dog's name is, but I couldn't tell you what their face looks like because I never felt comfortable with them enough to look at their face.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with Natalie. She was a very comfortable person to be around, but also they try to paint her out to be a saint, and I'd nominate her for sainthood, but she wasn't. Some of the things that she did were great, but the fact is that she wanted to be a nurse, and that would have given her access to all of those drugs. If you were injured in a car accident and you were laid up in the hospital, do you really want a nurse who is going to, filch your pain meds? Probably not. And the other thing is, I spent my entire life helping others, hoping that we could work together to stop this from happening en masse, which is really what's been happening. There's certain people who are just the victim class. They're too poor for anybody to care, or you can call them mentally ill and dismiss them and nobody listens to them. And one of the things with you is that when you get overwhelmed, you do a very good job of containing it, but just like anybody else enduring that abuse, you can't do that forever. And we actually tend to take more abuse than others. So we're able to endure more abuse than others. And we've also been taught that when we have to turn in abuse, we have to turn it in calmly. But the thing is, and I got this written down, after you've been abused, you're not going to be calm. You're going to have, disassociative information for a little bit just because you're literally that overwhelmed. So with the mandatory reporter stuff here, I turned in what I was supposed to, and they still keep running me around in circles. I understand why you weren't able to make the appointments and calls with me that were happening. I've missed appointments too, and I'm not going to be hateful for it. But they're still doing the same thing, and they're trying to brush off the criminal acts that they committed. They're also, even now that they're 100% aware that I'm not schizophrenic, or delusional, they're still trying to push that. The evidence that they were able to show that I'm not schizophrenic or delusional, they're refusing to look at, and they're, if I get arrested again on trumped up charges, they're going to destroy more evidence. I'll be cut off from being able to pay my bills, which will cut me off from even more evidence, and that's what they've been doing this whole time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I've been talking so much.
No, I'm letting you talk because I usually interrupt and I'm trying not to.
She's absolutely right, and also she's absolutely right. She's trying not to because she usually does most of the interrupting. And in this one, she did a lot too, but you notice I call it fighting for the right to speak, or fighting for my turn, fighting to be allowed to finish. A lot of these folks, I'm having to explain things so that a layman or a simpleton can understand it. But instead of allowing me to lay it out, A, B, C, D, and E, it ends up being them wanting to compare stories or making it a pissing contest or wanting to ask 200 questions that most of their questions, if not all of them, will be answered if they just shut the fuck up and listen, which most people have an issue with. Now, there's an even bigger issue when you're in a position where you need to be a mandatory reporter. You need to listen to the victim. You need to write down what it is that they're telling you, and you need to turn it in. You need to turn it in immediately. That's what the law requires. But are they going to? No, they're not. They're going to say, I can't do anything about it unless I see it, which is also against the law. It's an outright lie. And then they, of course, are refusing to look at any evidence or set up a time to go in and actually look at the evidence. And, this is the same stuff that Claire had to go through. This is the same stuff that Misty had to go through. A lot of people have been victimized in Tillamook, Oregon. And of course, the people doing it, the people stealing evidence, destroying evidence, lying in court over and over again, they get away with it and they destroy innocent lives. And when it results in little kids being victimized the way that let's just press play, right?
Well, we're both autistic and we're both PTSD survivors, and we both have a bit of, when somebody else is telling us about abuse, both of our abuses are recent enough, and they're also still ongoing, that, we're immediately triggered. This isn't like, with most of the people that I'm talking to, they'll tell me about something that happened to their grandma back in 1968 while I'm literally trying to tell a mandatory reporter that I was literally just assaulted. They start telling me about something that happened to some obscure person somewhere else, or they'll start telling me about their ex-husband who they left 7 years ago. And, for you, it's not a 7 years ago thing. For you, it's been an ongoing this entire time thing. Just like for me, it's been an ongoing this entire time thing. I'm showing people the threats that people are giving me and that it's over Natalie Bollinger. I'm also showing the stuff that shows that, they paint me as something that I'm not. I'm also showing the stuff showing that the reason that I'm being assaulted is over the Natalie Bollinger situation no matter where I go. This situation with Natalie Bollinger was across jurisdictional boundaries and beyond state boundaries within 24 hours of my car getting stuck in the road in Virginia. I mean, that's how fast it happened. Before I was even out of the state of Virginia, over a year before Natalie was killed, they had already set everything in motion for me to have to endure physical assaults and threats and abuse the moment that I got into Boulder, Colorado. And lucky for me, I got like 3 to 6 hours before I ran into one of those idiots. Sorry, another rant. Go ahead.
You can see she's trying to let me speak.
I was just saying about how long, people that are like, oh yeah, 12 years ago this happened to me, and I'm like, okay, well, for me it started getting real bad in 2015 and was active with my ex and all that harassment through June of 2023, and then it's been like a constant runaround of being treated badly.
Now, what was going on with me in 2023? Well, I had met Claire by that point, by June 2023. James Murphy had come back to town and was actively stalking me everywhere that I went. The library, Tillamook Sporting Goods parking lot, Safeway. Kept on driving by and parking behind my vehicle even when I wasn't there and honking at it and screaming at it, just like Chris Stafford was doing, except most of the time I wasn't even in the thing. And obviously, with the situations with them youngins over the, what do you call that, threats against people's lives by Christian Alexander. This stuff is all recorded on my YouTube channel. This is all stuff that I've had to record and post publicly because when I try to turn it in, I'm given the runaround and treated like I am less than a human being.
For no reason. Like, I clearly didn't do anything wrong. You can look it up. You can look up my record. You can pull my background. I haven't done anything wrong. And, like, people know just, like, little snippets of what I've been through. And I get treated like crap, right? Now I get treated like crap by, like, the Crossroads ministry that says that they, help people out, whatever. They're all freaking rude to me because everybody has, like, some tiny little piece of the story, like with you and Natalie Bollinger. Oh, I heard that she murdered that girl, so I'm not going to look into it. I'm just going to go based on that. Well, my ex said, well, no, she's just crazy.
Yeah, that's what I'm dealing with. Oh, he's crazy. I try to turn in the cops. They say I'm crazy. I got all this stuff, that the cops had involvement in that, is a lie, and I can show it's a lie, but that stuff shows that they pretend I'm crazy. And then there's the stuff where I was able to show evidence, and those mental health people say absolutely not. He's not schizophrenic and not delusional. I wanted to ask you a question, though. So there's a guy, and you might recognize the name. There was several women in town.
Now, the reason that I brought this up is because she was bringing up a situation, and she thought that she recognized the name, and she was going to try to find out if it was the right name or not. And so I was asking her about that because she was pretty sure that this guy was the same guy that had done something to her. So here I'm asking her about it, and I guess she did look it up, and She doesn't recognize the last name. So she's not one of the people that was a victim of this guy. However, several of the other victims of this guy came to me telling me about what he had done. And they also had the opinion that I was a mandatory reporter. These were women. The people who were yelling and screaming at me because I wasn't doing my job as a mandatory reporter, well, I screamed that stuff at the actual mandatory reporters, except for the parts where they were claiming that they were going to end my life. I did explain to them that I'm not a mandatory reporter, that I'm a victim who speaks up because mandatory reporters don't do their jobs. And I did my best to explain to these people, if you don't turn it in with me, it goes nowhere. You, as the victim, have to turn it in with me or it goes nowhere. And these victims tell me things like, oh, well, I already tried to turn it in and they won't listen. I know. How many people did you go in with? I went in by myself. Well, yeah, that's the problem. And then they tell me they're too afraid to go into the police. Well, obviously, I'm not the only person who's afraid to go to the police. So this situation here, this is the guy that she was pretty sure it was the guy, and here she says that it's not, which is helpful.
And some of their friends that were angry at me, they assumed that I was a mandatory reporter because I speak about the mandatory reporter laws. And this happens everywhere, by the way. So they were threatening me and harassing me because I wouldn't turn in a guy who was a rapist named David Sinuez. Now, the situation wasn't that I wasn't willing to turn it in. The situation was that the victims were too afraid to go turn it in themselves, and they wanted me to turn it in as a mandatory reporter. And I explained to those girls, I'm not a mandatory reporter, but if you will go in with me, I will turn it in with you. And they didn't want to do that because they were afraid. So, this guy is actually in prison currently, but, with that situation, I was wondering if there's anything that you might be able to add.
When I'd spoken to her before, she had said that she would find out. She also said that she might know some other victims of his, which, this is stuff that we had to discuss. If you're going to do the right thing, it helps to get the right information. And this is one of the things that we do. Try to get the right information. If you had the wrong information when you told me a story last time, this time, if you realized that something that you said was incorrect, or, you were sure about the first name but not the last name, if you're wrong, the sooner you admit that you were wrong, the sooner we can do something about the situation with the right information. So she's not being stupid. She's given the right information. She went, she checked, and here's what we're hearing.
I don't remember those three girls specifically, but I just remember there was a lot of women who were being heard. Like, I'd be sitting in my car. I came across pictures and video of that. Maybe I do have pictures and video of one of those girls because it was.
Sorry, had to pee. Precisa faz xixi.
Like, they kept coming up to, like, my car window with, like, a sign of basic details, and they'd knock, and they'd want me to, like, pull out my phone and video what they had to say and post it for them, and I'm like, all right, whatever.
Do you recognize the name David Sinuez?
I think they were just going to anybody that would listen.
Yes, ma'am. Do you recognize the name David Sinuez?
I remember you mentioning it, but I don't remember the last name, so...
All right.
I specifically don't remember personally hearing somebody introduce himself by that, but there's a few Davids, so yeah.
And right there, that's a situation where we're trying to make sure that we have a proper ID before moving forward, right? You want to say moving forward. What does that mean? Well, we moved forward from the last step. The last step was for her to go look it up and try to remember what she can about the situation and see what she has in her information in her files. So moving forward last time was the act of looking it up. Moving forward this time is making sure that we clear it up. And then we move on again to another step. But what is that step? Saying moving forward, that doesn't give us another step. That's just a blank statement. It's useless.
Yes, ma'am. I figured I'd get that cleared up because, of course, there's a lot of stuff that I want to make sure I have the right information. And if I have the wrong information, I want to go to the source and ask the right information. With these,
I mean, like, there's people out there that I don't know their last name because I never asked. So
my predators, when I try to turn them in, they pretend I'm out to hurt them. Some of them have kids, and they pretend that I'm out to hurt their kids. I've never harmed a kid, ever. So, the situation with the local police and care and all that, do you personally believe that it's safe for a person to go to these places for help if they're being abused?
no. Like, I think those resources are set up for very nicely for rehab drug like kind of situations. Like, ooh, you came from like a sketchy background selling drugs, now you're back into a normal life kind of.
All right. Rain's here. You know what that means. We're going to end this video. It's 46 minutes long anyway. We're 40 minutes into the Claire Jordan conversation. You know, nothing that she's saying is schizophrenic. She's not talking about dinosaurs coming to eat her. She's not claiming that there's tigers and lions and bears jumping out of her closet. She's not blaming the CIA and alien brainwave rays. She's not claiming that she's got some magical unicorn that's going to fix all of her fucking problems. She's not talking about how she'd pull out her Glock and go rat-a-tat-tat. She's not talking about how she's going to get some inheritance and she's going to, you know, she's not talking about any delusional shit. And the only time I would expect that she might do something even close to similar to that is when it is a desperate situation and she literally needs somebody to look at it now. As in the situations with people threatening my little sister and my niece and my friends, and whether we're friends or not anymore, that doesn't detract from the fact that I still love them and I don't want any harm coming to them. So y'all be safe, stay out of trouble or don't get caught. We're going to post up some more of the Claire Jordan video. We're a little over a third of the way through, so there's a lot more to come, and this is just one conversation. For every hour of this that I post up, there's also, you know, half an hour to an hour of all the other crap it takes to post it. It's not just making a recording and I click it and then it's done.